Oh, yeah. Aaron, go ahead. You're live on the air. Go with the question, sir.
Hello, Rabbi Singer. Um, Pleasure to speak with you once again. My question was regarding Hebrews 12, saying that Jesus was the single sacrifice, the final sacrifice, and that's kind of really the Christian's stance on him being the final atonement. I know in Hosea says there'll be many days without a temple, and Hosea says many days without a temple. Isaiah says the prayers of our lips replace the sacrifices. So my question is, if Jesus was the final atonement and he was sacrificed in 30 AD, and the temple wasn't destroyed till 70 AD, sacrifices were continuing for at least another 40 years.
Yes.
And in Acts 2:46, it says that the disciples met in the temple courts daily. So my question is, if Jesus was the final atonement, the final sacrifices, how is that possible when the sacrifices continued for another 40 years, in light that the actual disciples in Acts 2:46 said they went to the temple daily? I mean, I don't. How does it contradict itself
That's
in
great.
those two passages in Hebrews and then Acts?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go ahead and hang him down to you for your answer. That's a great question.
So many issues here that's hard to know where to begin. So as it turns out, according to Christian tradition, Jesus was crucified either in the year 30 or 33. Why is not important? But the Beis Hamikdash, the temple, was destroyed in the 70s. So why did it continue? So that's one question. And the church fathers had to address this. They had to figure out, why wasn't the temple destroyed when Jesus was crucified? Right? Well, it went on for another 40 years, something like that, right? So they didn't. The church fathers wrestled with this issue, and there were many different views of this, many different. The one that the church fathers used frequently was that because James, the just, was alive and he died, they thought in 69, which doesn't jive with Josephus. If Josephus is talking about the James, brother of Jesus, this is a controversial issue. So, but I don't want to get picayune. So that was an explanation. But your question, of course, heightens the issue much more, and that is that we have, very famously in the book of Acts, we have Paul bring offering. What do they bring offerings for? Absolutely correct. Moreover, you have another problem, and this other problem makes the other issues seem negligible. The other issue is, I think you know what's coming. In Tanakh, specifically in the book of Ezekiel, Sefer Yechezkel, we have the most detailed prophecy of the Messianic age. We have the unparalleled passages about Mashiach. Now, of course, so much of what we find in Yechezkel is common to what you find in Isaiah, but you do have prophecies about the final Messianic third temple that really are unparalleled. We have the unused blueprints of the third Beis HaMikdash there, and the Levites and the Kohanim resuming or bringing all the offerings, sin offerings. Ezekiel 43, 44, 45, it's all there. And not only that, Mashiach himself is bringing karbonos. Mashiach himself is offering not just any offering, but is bringing a sin offering for his own unintentional sins and the unintentional sins of the people. It says it openly. He's called the Nasi, he's called the Prince. 45, 20, and 22. Well, what's going on? I mean, this is why I want to just talk to the Christians. I know you're angry at me, or you're angry at Jews, or maybe you're not angry, you're beside yourself. I don't know what. This is why when Jews are studying Tanakh, and then at some stage we are introduced to Christianity, we just can't understand why anyone would be a Christian. I'm being honest with you. We don't dislike you, but was shocked that someone would be a Christian. The real reason is that Christians study the Christian Bible, as I mentioned earlier, before they study any part of the Hebrew Bible. And Christians don't study the end of Ezekiel. They just don't. Except for a very few studious ones who study it. There are some. They go off to Dallas Theological, they go to Moody. Some do. Very few do. Really, very few do. For 99.9% of the Christians, when I say this, they have no idea what I'm talking about. They have never read it in their lives. Never. And these are not hard chapters to read at all. It's a theme that comes up in every single show, I think. And that is, people ask, how could Hebrews, you said Hebrews 12. You don't have to go so far into Hebrews 12. You go further back, Hebrews 9, 10, that's what really comes through very strong, that the sacrificial system never even worked. It was temporal. After all, how could the blood of bulls and goats atone for sin? It's all foreshadowing. That's chapter 8. That chapter 10. That's all this kind of language. Hebrews, incidentally, the book of Hebrews, the epistle to the Hebrews, was written while the second temple was standing. It's earlier than the Gospels. The book of Hebrews is older than the Gospels. The Gospels were written after the temple was destroyed. The book of Hebrews was written even before the war, which began in 66. So the Beis HaMikdash temple and its offerings were operating in full order. And Hebrews is there to say that Jesus replaces everything. And Hebrews says explicitly there's no more sacrifices for sin. See Hebrews 10:18. This is very explicit stuff. It's all Bugs Bunny. And it doesn't matter if one Bugs Bunny story doesn't agree with another Bugs Bunny. It doesn't matter. It's just it's not really Bugs Bunny. You know what the Christian Bible, it's Superman. That's it. Jesus is Superman. That's really him. No one knows why did I say Superman? Because Superman is, people thought didn't even know who he was. He was just a reporter for a newspaper in Gotham, right? No one knew who he was. But when he was needed, he suddenly came around and did supernatural things. And then after he was done saving the day, he changes in a phone booth, and then he goes back and hides again. And that's, in fact, half the book of Mark. The first 8 chapters of the book of Mark, no one knows who this guy is. They have no clue who he is. And it's not just unique to Mark. It infiltrates all the Gospels, where no one knows who this guy is. It's not me saying it. In the Gospels, we are told, Jesus asks, who do you say that I am? And no one has a clue. What do you mean no one has a clue? That's right before the crucifixion. This is at the end of the day. Well, what was he walking around saying? They really didn't know. Peter then says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And in case you think that I am misinterpreting these passages, I'm not. Because Jesus' response to Peter is that flesh and blood couldn't reveal this. What do you mean flesh and blood couldn't reveal it? I thought you're running around saying you're Mashiach. He wasn't. So it really is this. That's why the Superman series that I remember when I was a little boy was, on television. It was at that time I thought it was very interesting. But that's what it was. It's like out of nowhere, Superman. This is real mythology, and I've taught you this before, that whenever you see these oddities in the Christian Bible, it's really a defense. It's an apologetic, because people are going, well, this guy never claimed to be Mashiach. What are you talking about? So it was always the secret. This is most pronounced where you would expect it to be most pronounced, in the least embellished of the Gospels. It's not a high bar, but Mark is the least embellished of the full Gospels, is the earliest of all. And in fact, Luke and Matthew, of course, copy and paste almost all the book of Mark. So he really is a Superman figure. As it turns out, Tanakh tells us openly that the offerings will return. Why don't we have punishments after Mashiach comes of like other kinds of sins? Because there will not be any sins of rebellion when the Messiah comes. When the true Messiah comes, there won't be rebellion in the world. But people still make mistakes, meaning people aren't careful. Just like I tell you, I like to cook. I'm sure some of you also like to cook in the kitchen, or cook because you have to. You never cut yourself in the kitchen? You ever put your hand on a hot pot and burnt yourself? Of course you have. Why? Because you wanted to kill yourself? No, because you were being irresponsible. And your head was somewhere else. You're on a telephone, and you're talking to some yenta, and you cut yourself, or you burn yourself because you forgot you turn on the fire. Right? So you go, I'm a dummy. That's it. So that will continue when Mashiach comes. So the big kasha is, the hardest question is, why are there offerings when the Beis HaMikdash is restored? That's how Zechariah ends, that the offerings will be restored in the Beis HaMikdash, and the kings of Goyim will be bringing offerings, because non-Jews also are bringing offerings. Another thing about Superman is that there's always the villain in Superman, and Batman too. Right? There's always these villains, and it's not clear what, like why is there a Riddler? Like why are there these villains? They seem to out of nowhere just are bad people. So that's also very Christian, because it's like not clear in the Christian Bible why the Jews hate Jesus, but they do. Right? So just like in the Batman stories, there's just some bad villain, right? Why is he bad? It's not even true. He looks like an idiot, but he opposes anything good. That's what it is. It's the mythology. The same thing in the James Bond movies. You have, I don't know, Dr. Goldfinger, I don't know his name. He just wants to destroy the world for some reason. Mm-hmm. That's what the Jews are. So it's this mythological theme that finds itself very well embedded in ancient religions, even long before the Greco-Roman world, to explain evil. They're just demonic people, and that's who the Jews are. And it's said openly that these are the Jews. Where? In the book of Revelation. You don't need the Ku Klux Klan. The Revelation, chapter 2, chapter 3, the Jews are not even real Jews, and their synagogue is a synagogue of Satan. Revelation chapter 2 and 3, verse 9. Openly says it. In the Christian Bible. This is not like some naughty church father like Melito in the 2nd century, or Origen, or Tertullian, who were very naughty. This is in the canon itself. So that's it. Just as these cartoons and these mythological things that we watch as children, there's no explanation why bad guys are bad guys, really. Same thing in the Gospels. There's no reason except they're just evil in their hearts for some reason. And that's what it is. It's pure avodah zarah. It's pure idolatry. It has nothing to do with God. If all Christians have to do is just read Tanakh, and if you know the Hebrew Bible, if you know the real truth, you don't need paintings and schmaintings. You immediately recognize that the Christian Bible is unholy and is alien to everything that's sacred. Anyways, thank you very much for your thoughtful question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר